Welcome guys to the Heroes closed beta patch notes for March the 24th, 2015. This is going to be a quick rundown, a quick preview of what's being changed. My name is Ben Hosford. I'm a caster for the game, providing colour casting I guess, and focusing on the analysis. So let's take a very quick look. We're not going to look at Jaina, we're not going to look at the new Battleground. These are Jaina's abilities around here, but we're going to start off with the changes to the current Battlegrounds. Here they are. So we've got Blackheart's Bay. Doubloon chest status bar is now segmented, so you can actually tell how many coins are left, how much it takes to get one coin out of the HP bar. It's just quality of life change. Now the big one out of all of the Battlegrounds is Garden Terror. Now Garden of Terror is a map where we tend to see 30-minute games persist on very often, and Blizzard have tried to shorten these games by changing the Garden Terror's W around. So you can see here, overgrowth, health increased by 25. Overgrowth is the potted plant, which stops structures from firing and deals damage to them over time. Now it also received an additional health bonus past the 15 minute mark, so it becomes even harder to destroy. Usually you could send one, maybe two people there to try and take it down, but now you might have to commit a few more. Also now deals damage, now deals 70% at 70 plus 7 per minute damage to each tick to minions and mercenaries instead of 20% of their maximum health. It's the same damage as structure damage. Simple as that really. Sky Temple as well gets a little bit of a change in here. There's a real key around this one though. So Temple's damage reduced by 10%. So the first phase you're going to be doing less damage. If you get mid-temple you won't be getting the tower in the town hall. Same for top, if you get that you're not going to get the fountain. I'm not sure how this will interact with the actual towers on the gate. You may have to push them down a little bit before you take the temples, but this change essentially is going to steer the second rotation away from being so detrimental to the team, because that second rotation is essentially where you make or break a game. You will hit level 10 there and the other team will not. So this is kind of try and slow it down, meaning that you've got that little bit more room for error for that bottom shrine. And I'm just going to skip over now down to these talents. So we've got a new talent for Jaina, which I'll talk about later when we get to her changes. Blood for Blood is a little visual update there, not too much change there. Healing Ward's an interesting one. Now Healing Ward duration increased from 10 to 15 seconds, heal amount reduced from 3% to 2% of the max health per second. Essentially it is the same amount of healing done, just over a longer period of time. Very rarely do we see team fights last up to 15 seconds, or even a Healing Ward itself last its full duration before someone takes it out. So what we're seeing from here is we're going to see the Healing Ward not do as much. It's not going to be as prominent in team fights. Right now we see Tassadar, Tyrande take Healing Wards alongside the support of Malfurion, of Rhaegar, of Lily if she ever gets picked. Whereas now we're going to see it less so, probably just the support. It opens up another option for those pseudo supports, the Tassadar, the Tyrande, to see what they can take at level 4. Ice Block, I feel like this was needed. Cooldown reduced by 20 seconds from 80 to 60. 80 seconds to me just felt like an arbitrary number. 60 seconds is a minute. 120 again just seems weird. So it's a pretty standard change there. Not many heroes actually use Ice Block. Malfurion is probably the main one right now. Level 13 once he gets that tranquility going. So he's going to be seeing that one more. Scouting Drone as well. Now Scouting Drone isn't actually seen on many heroes. The only time I've really seen it was on Malfurion at level 1. But then you have the trade-off of Conjurer's Pursuit. Now it has 2 charges, so you can place 2 drones across the map. Duration is reduced however, the cooldown is reduced alongside it, and the placement range is increased, and of course now it takes 2 hits to destroy it instead of 1, so you can really gain more vision here early on in a map. You can really catch out rotations, maybe on a big map like Cursed Hollow, like Dragonshire, also where rotations are so key early on. You can use that to catch out your opponent. Now moving on to the heroes themselves, we're going to start things off with Abathur. Now, Abathur hasn't really seen much play. He's been coming back into the meta a little bit with Illidan. Abathur, Illidan, Rhaegar's been something which has been pretty toxic, I know, in Hero League. So Abathur, it seems like Blizzard are trying to shift her to a different style of play. We've got the Toxic Nest change, which is what they're focused on here. In Venom Nest, so you've got the damage increase from 30 to 50%. That's a level 1 talent on Abathur. We don't see too many good, strong talents at level 1 on Abathur. So we may see this one get picked up quite a bit, and then see the Abathur players go for this more mines orientated build. Prolific Dispersal now increases the cooldown, reduces the cooldown, sorry, of Toxic Nest. So that is the talent where you can place 2 mines. Now you're going to be able to place 2 mines a hell of a lot more often. Simple as that. Vile Nest as well, the slow has been increased to 50%. That is a huge slow. I only remember back when I played the game competitively, I played against 3D Max, who are now gamers too. They went for a mines build on Abathur, and the 40% slow seemed huge, and now they've increased that to 50%. We may see this build come back a lot more. And now we've got a few changes to both of Abathur's heroic abilities. Evolved Monstrosity now persists until it is killed. It has no timer on it, just becoming essentially a bit more of a monster, being more of a distraction. Ultimate Evolution, however, this is an interesting one. Cooldown reduced to 70 seconds. Duration is also reduced by 10 seconds, so it only persists for 20. But it now gains 20% more AP and 20% more basic attack damage and 10% move speed. This is kind of the trade-off for them removing their heroic ability, just to add more damage to those basic abilities. So we could see it played every now and then, just to add a 5th member to the team, making sure you have that bit more teamfight presence. But in its current state, Evolved Monstrosity, with the buff it's getting as well, it's just going to be such a nuisance in those lanes, so the opponent really has to take their teamfights extremely carefully. Now Azmodan. Azmodan was a hero which kind of came into the meta because of Tempo Storm over in NA. They realised that you could get an insane damage output with the stacking Q, the Taste for Blood, at level 1. Now Blizzard have realised this, and they're going to put a cap on it. It's capped at 500 damage, so once you get 250 minions killed with your Q, that's it, no more damage increase. So Azmodan is going to get to a point where he just plateaus rather than just ramping up late game and just becoming unstoppable. It's a fair change. If Azmodan did get to that 25-30 minute mark, he would just be destroying structures, so that's an understandable change, and you can see why Blizzard have made it. Now we have Diablo. Now, Apocalypse cooldown. It's been reduced from 120 to 100 seconds. This is pretty big. This is now effectively a counter to Nazeebo. Now, before, Nazeebo would have a window of opportunity where Ravenous would come off cooldown before Apocalypse did. Now that has just been thrown out of the window. You need to hold on to your Ravenous Spirit if you are Nazeebo playing against Diablo, if you want to get an effective one off. Now, this cooldown is big. It means that, unlike say a Bloodlust comp where you have to wait 2 minutes before you can take a team fight, you've now got this little bit of, there's now less time between taking team fights. 20 seconds, it's actually a big deal, especially when you think of Cursed Hollow tributes, Sky Temple shrines, Dragonshire rotations. Apocalypse is now a strong ultimate. It can now get picked a lot more often than Lightning Breath. And speaking of Lightning Breath, we have a quality of life change. Now, there was a change that came in last patch where Lightning Breath would cast in the direction Diablo was facing, so you'd miss about half a second or so where you'd be rotating to the team fight. Now it goes to the direction of the cursor, so it's what Diablo players wanted. ETC, Fury of the Storm talent replaced with Hardened Shield. He was meant to get Hardened Shield last patch, but it was a little bug. They kept Fury in. So now you're going to be stage diving in, activating that Hardened Shield, or even power sliding in, Hardened Shield. Just going to make you survive a lot longer in that back line. Pretty standard change there. Falstad is up next. Damage increased from 34 plus 10 to 38 plus 10, so increasing Falstad's early damage. Nothing too detrimental to his late game scaling, just standard, increasing it early on, making sure he can trade with Valor, with Tychus, with Reyna at those early levels. Barrel roll cooldown reduced, and the speed has been increased by 50% roughly, and then you get the Flow Rider talent where it reduces cooldown reduction increased by 40%. So they're trying to give Falstad a consistent escape rather than one that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. The cooldown reduction's nice, the speed is really nice as well. Mighty Gust though, maybe not so. They've reduced the mana, and they've also reduced the cooldown of it to 50 seconds, but when you have the option of Hinterland Blast on a ranged assassin, which is doing so much damage over what's essentially a displacement, which I feel is probably better on a utility hero like Atassadar, someone that just provides that little bit extra rather than damage, then yeah, but on Falstad you've got the option of Hinterland Blast. It's not going to be... Mighty Gust won't be seen as often, even with that change. Jaina's next. Arcane Power is her new talent. She gets it at level 20 and Nexus Fury has been removed. Now, and of course she's also got the improved Ice Block cooldown reduced at level 13, where it now goes to 60 seconds in tune with the standard Ice Block. Jaina's new talent, Arcane Power. Get it at level 20. Activate to increase spell damage by 15% and restore 400 mana. This effect happens for 5 seconds. So, right now at level 20 it is Blink. It is Bolt of the Storm on Jaina. But now, if you feel like you're in a safe team, if for these 20 levels you've been pretty safe, your team's been peeling for you very well, you've been able to survive through these fights, then Arcane Power might be an option for you. Essentially, you're going to have, of course, the damage spike from 15%, but the 400 mana is going to let you get a full rotation off should you need it. We all know Jaina has mana problems. If you're running low on mana in a team fight, boom, Arcane Power, full rotation off, essentially for free, and it's going to have increased damage, so you're really going to be able to burst someone down very, very quickly. Frostbite now affects unstoppable units such as the Grave Golem, so essentially Jaina's going to be quicker at taking down Garden Terrors, taking down Grave Golems, and of course de-pushing them as well. Frostbolt, Blizzard and Cone of Cold have actually all gained both flat damage increase and scaling damage increase, so these changes are essentially just a huge damage increase for Jaina early on and throughout her levels. As if she wasn't able to burst someone quick enough, she can now do it a little bit quicker, a little bit stronger abilities. Kerrigan gets quality of life change with her Ultralisk. You can now reactivate your R to click terrain to move the Ultralisk there, and click on a unit will issue the attack command, so again, quality of life change. Speaking of those, we've got a change to Lily, where her Q and her ultimate will no longer heal Nova decoys or Abathur clones. The Abathur clone one is a little bit strange for me. I feel like you actually want to keep your ultimate evolution alive for its entire duration, so having the option to heal it would be nice, but now you don't get that. Murky. I'm not too sure what Blizzard want with Murky. They nerfed him into the ground last patch, and then they put him on free week to see how the nerfs affected him. He's got some base health regen, HP regen increased per level. In fact, that's a lot per level, 2.4 per level, and the base has been doubled. So while he is alive, he's going to be getting a lot of more health back than normal, just being typical Murky, being a pain. He does, however, get a new talent at level 4. I like to view this as his own personal gathering power, so instead of getting it where you get kills, you get it for the time you're alive. So gain 10% AP, flat, that's all you really need. And then 1% for every 5 seconds that Murky is alive, up to 25%. So if the longer you survive, the more damage you're going to be doing, the more pushing power you have. It really adds a kind of higher skill, I guess, to Murky, to make sure that you are alive and you do in fact get rewarded for staying alive, rather than just dying straight up over and over again, just giving away minimal XP, but hey, it's worth it because you're pushing. No, now you are rewarded for staying alive. Murky's Egg got a few changes in there as well. The egg itself no longer gives experience, the cooldown's been reduced, the health has been increased, both scaling and flat, and he now gets a change to his Assault Egg bonus to egg health reduced, but that's of course offset from the base increase of the health. Slime, Murky's Q. Stacking damage now applies to unstoppable units, so again, going to be quicker, taking down Grave Golems, Garden Terrors, and defending against them as well, same as Jaina. Pufferfish cast time reduced. This just means that the enemy has less time to react to it, get those auto attacks off, so it's more consistently going to be doing these the damage that it's meant to, clearing the waves. Nazebo, he got some interesting changes here. Gidbin talent no longer increases duration on Voodoo Ritual, that's Nazebo's trait. Voodoo Ritual itself, it got a talent change at level 16. This was actually a pretty big nerf. Specialized Toxin it would do 200% damage, but it now is only increased by 100%. So while those enemies are running away, you're going to really have to make sure you secure that last hit when they're on low health, because you can't rely on specialized toxin to do it for you. Toads of Hugeness, it's the level 13 talent, where bonus damage per hop is increased. It was 10%, it's now 20%. But you won't really see that talent get taken. You may see it every now and then, maybe less than 5% of games, but when sprint's an option on Nazebo, you're of course going to choose that one. Gargantuan got some pretty big changes. The damage increased, both flat and scaling. Health increased, both flat. The health was reduced in fact, but its scaling was increased. So at level 10 it's going to be doing more damage but less health, and then later on it's probably going to plateau somewhere at roughly the same HP and still do more damage. The AI has been improved however, but this does mean that it's still not a summonable, controllable unit, much like the Ultralisk that we saw from Kerrigan or Jaina's Water Elemental. And the reason for that is that if you activate R again, you can now cast Stomp. It no longer does it automatically. You have some control over this as a Nazebo player. And Stomp has a 4.5 second cooldown. Ravenous Spirit got some nerfs in there as well. The radius was reduced and the damage was changed, so it had a higher base damage, but its scaling damage was reduced. So we may actually see Gargantuan picked a lot more often onto Nazebo, especially with the change of Apocalypse, where Ravenous Spirit becomes a little bit riskier into a Diablo. We've seen a few teams, mainly EU, pick Gargantuan if they're playing into an Apocalypse, and now we may see a lot more of them and across over the pond to NA. Reyna, they just want to make him a stronger assassin early on. They've increased his damage per level, just try and put him up there with the Tychus, with the Valor, with the Falstad. Sergeant Hammer. Now, I know she's a tank and she's meant to be beefy, but her health for her damage output was just insane. She's got a reduction 50% at minus 50 HP, sorry, at level 1 onto Hammer, and she gains 30 less each level. Really definitely needed. She was hard to kill for what she did. She was so slippery. Even if you jump on her, get some CC down, she would just thrust us out of there and be safe. Sonya can now use talents, activatable talents, while in her Whirlwind form. This includes Stone Skin, Hardened Shield, which has been renamed to Nerves of Steel, and Hardened Shield has been renamed to Ignore Pain. So these are just specific changes to Sonya, just to make sure that she is true to her barbarianness. You can't have a Elite Tauren Chieftain having the same name of an ability as the Barbarian. Barbarians are known for their ruthlessness, and they will happily ignore pain, and that is now the Hardened Shield. Stitches got hit pretty hard. That's all I'm going to say. Health reduction, pretty big per level, 30 less. Vile Gas, the radius of it has been decreased by 25%. Damage scaling decreased by 0.5 per level. Toxic Gas though, the talent, it does increase it, so if you grab the talent it will make it to the same as the talent it was before. It increases it from 25 to 50%, so it kind of offsets, it includes for the decrease in the normal trait itself. But the damage over time effect has been reduced to only 1 second, so a pretty big nerf on damage Stitches there. Slam. Speaking of damage Stitches nerfs, here it is. Pulverize. You take it at level 16 because it had the stun. You'd interrupt a strafe, you'd interrupt a mosh pit, you'd interrupt whatever you needed to. But nope, they've got rid of that. It's now a 75% slow for 1 second, and the increased damage. It used to increase damage by 50%. No, not anymore. It's reduced the slam cooldown by 2 seconds. So really, Blizzard trying to get away from damage Stitches and make it purely a frontline tank. But with the HP reduction, it's not a Stitches isn't a frontline tank. He doesn't have that that HP regen anymore. That base health, sorry, anymore. And you just can't tank with someone who has less health than everyone else. I honestly think that if you include the changes from the last patch, that that Blizzard are trying to push for a 2-tank meta, 2 assassins, a support, and 2 tanks, rather than the meta we're seeing now of single tank, 1 support, a pseudo support / damage, and then 2 assassins. Gorge, the duration of it's been increased of Hungry Stitches, that level 20 talent. Also now removes the movement speed slow from Gorge, so you will move at 100%. But we don't see Gorge taken when Putrid Bile is there. Gorge is for damage Stitches, or at least it was when it had the damage, but now Stitches, as a frontliner, will always take Putrid Bile. Speaking of Putrid Bile, its level 20 talent got a buff as well. You now gain 10% more move speed while Putrid Bile is active. Really nice change there, just adds another dynamic to the level 20 talent. Tassadar, they really want Force Wall used. Mana's been reduced by over half, and it now forms 50% faster. The problem with talents and heroics right now is that if something is taken 100% of the time, it clearly isn't balanced, and that's what Archon is, 100% of the time. They're trying to bring Force Wall into play. Simple as that. Lost Vikings, they got some changes. They have a specific version of Fury of the Storm. It's got level 20. Every 5 seconds, next basic attack will do an additional amount of damage to the target and nearby minions and mercs. Each Viking has a separate cooldown. So if you want to go for that instead of the longbow at level 20, then you've got a lot of damage there from your auto attacks. Longbow though, this needed to happen. Damage reduced, from 15 plus 8 to 15 plus 7. Scaling, going into those later levels, it's going to have less damage on board. Thrall got some changes as well. Blizzard obviously want to see him come back into the meta. They realise that they nerfed him a little bit too much, as he's now got more sustain on his trait. Scaling heal increased from 23 per level to 30 per level. Mana Tide, his talent where he gets mana back, it's been reduced from 20 to 15, so increased his sustain in one way, reduced it in another. His mana sustain has been reduced. Chain Lightning though, it's now got an increased mana cost, but that's kind of been offset with the increased damage it's gaining as well. It's getting +2 difference per level now, rather than, it's gone from 15 to 17. But the increased mana with the nerf to Mana Tide could be detrimental to Thrall's sustain and his damage output. They've done the same for Wind Fury as well. Cost has been increased by 15 mana, movement speed bonus increased by 5%, and they've now changed Wind Shear from level 1 to 7, and it increases the cooldown from 4 to 3 seconds. Cooldown by 4 seconds rather than 3 seconds. So yeah, trying to bring Thrall back, add in some more damage, just improve his kit slightly at the cost of some more mana. Tychus, they include Tychus in here. It's just generic talents have been name changed, like we saw with Sonya. So Searing Attacks has now been renamed to Sizzling Attacks. Giant Killer renamed to Problem Solver. Tyrande, she saw some pretty big changes this patch. They removed a lot of her talents, then they've been rearranged as well. Shroud removed, Purging Mark removed, Bolt of the Storm removed, Focused Attacks added at level 4, Nexus Frenzy added at level 20, True Shot Aura removed from 7 to 16. And they have changed True Shot Aura around itself. So before it would be a 10% attack speed and damage increase, now it's just a flat 15% attack damage, no attack speed. Now, going to those talents we saw removed, Shroud, we rarely saw that taken. Same for Purging Mark. Bolt of the Storm every now and then, but Storm Shield is an option at level 20 for Tyrande, as is the increased Starfall damage and the global cast, so we kind of didn't really see Bolt too often, and that's surprising on someone who has no escape. So they've added Nexus Frenzy, that's the 20% range increase and 20% attack speed increase to Tyrande. Makes sense, she's turning into an auto attacker, an assassin rather than a support. Hunter's Mark trait, Huntress Fury moved from 16 to 13. Now, Mark of Mending, heal amount increased from 2 to 2.5%. We don't really see Mark of Mending being taken on Tyrande. I believe that's the 16 talent, where you get health back. But again, we don't really see it too often. We may do now, but Tyrande, she's going to go for more damage rather than sustaining herself. Light of a Loon, her heal, the cooldown has been increased, but that again has been offset by the increased heal that she's going to get. So self-healing increased by a flat amount and per level, ally healing also increased by a flat amount and per level. Overflowing Light, this is the talent where you heal for more if you're above a certain amount of HP. It's been moved from 4 to 13, and it's been buffed to the point where before it was 90% health on Tyrande. That always seemed strange to me. It's been removed half health, so when you're above 50%, you get a better heal for your ally. Heal bonus reduced though from 40 to 35%. Sentinels had some talent changes. Pierce and Empower have essentially switched around, so you can still go for this Owl build should you wish, but it just means that Pierce is at level 4 and Empower, the cooldown reduced at level 1. Lunar Flare as well. They've increased the radius, by 20%, but taken that off of the Lunar Blaze talent, which was at level 13. It's now essentially the range increase by itself, which has been moved to level 7 from 13. So Tyrande's talents have become interesting. The focused attack we saw her get at level 4 now. Your basic attack deal 50%. Your next basic attack every 10 seconds deals 50% additional damage. Basic attacks reduce this cooldown by 1 second. She gets this at level 4. She now has a lot of options at level 4. If you want to go Owl build, you now have Pierce. You of course still have Healing Ward, but that took a bit of a nerf. And you have focused attack. So if you're going DPS Tyrande, you have focused attacks. If you're going for the global presence Tyrande, you have Pierce. If you're going for support Tyrande, you have Healing Ward. And this is what Blizzard really needs to do. Give you these options so that you can go for these kind of one trick build. So DPS Tyrande. You can pick it so early on now. What else do we have? We have that's it for Tyrande. We move on to Uther, and as Blizzard have bolded here, Uther has received a significant talent update. Burning Rage removed. That's okay, it wasn't taken. Sprint removed. That is silly in my eyes. Sprint was Uther's way of getting in to the fray. He relied on it. It was his level 13 talent. You needed Sprint in order to get a good Divine Storm off, but now that's being taken away, we may see a decline in Uther. Block has been added at level 1, but that over Conjurer's Pursuit, I'm not too sure. Amplified Healing added at level 4. This one doesn't really make sense to me. His health regen's been increased from this, like all regen effects increased, and all healing done to Uther is increased, but not his heal output. So I'm not too sure about that one on Uther. Burning Rage was removed, but he gets his own his own version of it now. Holy Fire at level 7 deals 8 plus 1.6 per level damage to enemies nearby. His own version of Burning Rage. He's also got a new 16 talent here, Benediction. Activate to reduce the cost of next basic ability cast by 50 mana and its cooldown by 10 seconds. So essentially what we can see here is, if you activate it, you can get a double stun off. You can chain stun someone yourself by Uther and then wait for the follow up from your team. Or you can get a double heal off in there using your Holy Light. Basic attacks, Hammer of the Lightbringer, that's got some mana back to it, now from 5 to 8, just trying to increase his sustain, trying to make that talent an option, simple as that. Holy Devotion talent removed. This is the one where he did 100% damage in his Eternal Devotion form, but that had to get removed because they've changed his trait around. As we can see here, the functionality of this trait has changed significantly. Uther can no longer use basic attacks or abilities while in Eternal Devotion form. Instead, he gains a new ability, Flash of Light. Heal an ally for 81 plus 22.5 per level HP. Has a 1.5 second cooldown. So you can't stun, you can't ult. All you can do is heal. And looking at those numbers alone, that looks like a pretty hefty heal in that form. So he may not have the CC, but he can keep his allies supported really well. And on a 1.5 second cooldown, you're going to get a good 4, maybe even 5 heals off if you use it as soon as it's off cooldown. He does, however, get a new level 20 talent, and this is extremely interesting. Redemption. After Eternal Devotion ends, Uther will resurrect at the location of his spirit with 50% HP. This effect has a 3-minute cooldown. This reminds me of Resurgence of the Storm. Now, Uther did used to have Resurgence of the Storm, but you'd never take it because Divine Hurricane would always be taken. Now, they've changed Divine Hurricane a little bit. which I'll just scroll down to now. You can see it down at the bottom here. Bonus stun radius has been decreased from 100% to 50%, so it's a less area of effect. So we may see Redemption get taken. So he can essentially just revive in the middle of a fight, just get to safety after his Eternal Devotion, and this means that he can go that little bit deeper into a fight, so he may not have to use, well, losing sprint may not be too big of a deal at level 20, because you can essentially walk in, get an ult off, die, turn into Holy Devotion, Eternal Devotion, sorry, and then resurrect using Redemption. So there's obviously that option there for playstyle, but still 180-second cooldown's pretty big. So we'll have to see how that one plays out and if people actually decide to take it. Holy Light, Uther's heal, the range has been decreased. Protect the Weak, that's the heal on minions and mercs, the talent. That was never taken anyway, it makes sense to remove that. Reach now increases the Holy Light and Flash of Light, that's the heal in your passive form, by 40%. With the range decrease on the heal itself, that makes sense, it's there to compensate a little bit. Now Blessed Champion adds more damage as an option at level 13. Now with sprint being removed, it's certainly an option now for you to take if you're going for this damage Uther style. So after casting Holy Light, the next basic attack heals for 30%. In fact, no, it's no damage, it's just an extra heal there. So it's going for this more support style Uther that we're seeing there. So you've actually got quite a few options at level 13 now. You have Blessed Champion, you have Shrink Ray, and you also have Holy Shock, which has got a bit of a change now because that's been moved from 16 to 13. So in addition to its previous effects, Holy Shock now also reduces the cooldown of Holy Light by 4 seconds when it's used to deal damage. So before, taking Holy Shock would always have a trade-off because its cooldown was just so long and you wouldn't be able to heal anyone for that duration. Now, if you use it for damage, you can now use it quicker because it's been reduced by 4 seconds to either deal more damage when it's off cooldown or heal a target if needed. And that's been moved to 13, so you now do have more options at level 13. Holy Radiance, Uther's W. This is an interesting one. The length has been reduced by 16%, reducing Uther's safety net for his wave clear in a solo lane. Before, you could stand back in your own minion wave, heal all 3 parts of your wave, your archers, your sorcerer, your melees, and deal damage to your opponent's melees, sorcerers, and archers. But now, with the reduction in length, you won't be able to do that. He does get a new level 4 talent with this though, Boundless Conviction. Increase the length and width of Holy Radiance by 40%. So now it's going to be either this or Protective Shield at level 4. If you want to go for this pushing Uther, you can of course take this. But yeah, if you are in a solo lane, you will more than likely take that. Hammer of Justice, Dead Weightstone removed. Dense Weightstone, sorry. That's the increased damage. Rebuke talent removed as well. Fist of Justice moved from 4 to 1. That's the cooldown per auto attack. And he gets a new level 7 talent with his hammer as well. After Hammer of Justice's stun fades, the target is slowed for 2 seconds by 30%. Interesting, adding more CC there to Uther, and it's a reliable CC as well. Movement speed slow, just so that your team can follow up with their damage or their CC. And here it is, Divine Storm. Bulwark of Light talent functionality change. Uther no longer gains Divine Shield himself, it's just a duration increase and its cooldown is reduced now. Divine Storm, this is what I was on about earlier. Bonus stun damage. Bonus stun radius decreased from 100% to 50%. So reducing the size there of Divine Hurricane. Valor. Valor was, in my eyes, I've said it many times in my cast, the epitome of balance. She was 100% picked, never banned. Blizzard have removed battle momentum from her, so we're going to probably see a shift over to auto attack style Valor now. Whereas before we'd see multi-shot builds because you'd have it off cooldown so often. Now with battle momentum removed, it's going to be a longer cooldown. We may see auto attacks come back. Speaking of auto attacks, Hatred has been moved from 13 to 7. Hot Pursuit, sorry, has been moved from 13 to 7. Vault. Vault no longer makes Valor unstoppable. Now, before, if Valor could vault, it could not be interrupted. whereas Falstad could. If Falstad used barrel roll, he could get stunned out of it. This now puts Valor in line with Falstad. In my eyes, it wasn't fair that Valor could just vault away 100% of the time, whereas Falstad could get interrupted. And finally, we have Zeratul here. He just gets a little bit of a nerf to his second bomb. The second bomb now only deals 50% instead of 100%. Just a small damage nerf on Zeratul. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for taking the time out to watch your video. Those were the changes for March the 24th for Heroes of the Storm 2015. I hope you enjoyed it. I've been Ben Hosford. If you have liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I will be uploading VODs from any games I cast, plus in the future doing more patch rundowns. And of course, create discussion in the comments. Tell me what you think about these changes. Is there anything which stands out to you? Anything you really like? Anything you really hate? As a support player, I really dislike the sprint change to Uther, but I'm going to have to play him, see how these new talents work out. So yeah, thanks, and I'll see you next time.